Hello and welcome to the TMC Newsroom. My name is Rich Tehrani. Thanks for watching. On the program today, Tab Schadt, who's the CEO of DoubleHorn Communications. His company provides communications and broadband services to small and medium-sized businesses. Tab, thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Rich. Appreciate it.
So your company is based here in Texas.
Yeah, Austin, actually. Yeah.
And you provide services?
Managed broadband, hosted voice over IP, and business applications for the SMB market and some of the lower-sized enterprise for integrated services like SIP trunking and IPPBX support.
And you were once Texas-only focused, but now you're nationwide.
Yeah, we found that the hosted voice over IP product was ready to go nationwide about 18 months ago. We have a very strong focus on customer service, so we were a little bit reluctant to launch on a national basis if we couldn't get to the end user very quickly. And the partner channel, while it's been very valuable, there's nothing like a full-time employee touching the customer. And we wanted to make sure in any markets that we're in that we can do that. Now, we do not deliver managed broadband nationwide, hosted voice over IP.
Sure.
The broadband, we're very specific to our market.
Sure. Like most
Dallas,
CLECs or...
Yeah, correct. Dallas,
carriers.
Austin, San Antonio, Houston. We call it our DASH, for the acronym for Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and Houston, in a couple markets outside of Texas. But again, the VoIP is nationwide.
Okay, and so that puts you up against a bunch of players in the market, but the last time I wrote about this was maybe a month ago. The FCC released a report. Very small percentage of small to medium businesses have even switched over to VoIP. I think it's in the 5% range.
Yeah, it's very low. It's very low. Now, it is on the uptick, and the good news is when they switch over, they usually do not go back. I mean, there's something about it. The deployment, though, and the success from the customer standpoint is the key.
Sure.
And I think the more you have that, and if companies are in tune to that, you'll see that that's going to be the driver, the success and the experience of one person telling it to another person. The technology, believe it or not, they don't get caught up in as much as they do. It's second. It's a big one, but it's second to, well, was it a pain? How did it go? Did it take down your system? Did you get trained on time? And if those questions are answered yes, then the referral business is very strong in the industry.
So if you're talking to a potential customer and they're trying to make a decision, how do you differentiate your services from others?
The focus, the customer support. I mean, over the last 6+ years, we've defined a service delivery process and a fulfillment process. I mean, we manage, our network elements, whether that's the session border controllers, the application layer. We provision our phones. We were one of the first, if not the first, to really start including the phones back in 2005 as part of the offering. That was really our flagship and our marquee, that the IP phone comes configured. We took the elements of provisioning and warranties and the things that the end user may have to worry about. We take those all out. So it's not just a hosted VoIP from a phone system. It's the entire process is gone. We have a 90-day guarantee. We actually answer the phone within 4 rings. And while that's hard to staff for sometimes, admittingly, it's something that we haven't dropped the ball on. And it's the hallmark. And so again, it's the customer service is the big differentiator.
Do you have to deal with pricing issues as well? Because if companies, let's look at any market, if a company is not as focused on service, they can price their product lower, and sometimes customers don't necessarily think about service.
They do not, and you're right. Yes, we do. That's a constant battle. And we, from time to time, to be honest with you, we fall prey to that and we get sucked into it. But most of the time, pull yourself back, and if you're talking to the right customer and you're delivering the right applications, the right value, and standing behind what you say you're going to do, then that price starts to subside. That's a price issue, or topic, I should say. But it's definitely there. We have to deal with it. But the customers that, to be quite honest, if you end up in that battle from the get-go and you can't deliver a good service, there's a chance that it's going to go south. And I think that's what's happened with some of the big nationwide VoIP players, is they have not done that. And that's why you see a slower tick than the 5% we mentioned. You'll see a bigger tick when $1.50, $2, people let that go and worry about the experience.
Well, if you're a small business and money is so tight that you're worrying about a few dollars and you have a customer calling in and their call quality is terrible or they get disconnected, your potential to sell to that customer again has just gone down. And so theoretically what you've just done is you've saved some money, but you've now made a bad impression to your potential customers. And so if money was so tight to begin with and now you've lowered your total amount of sales and revenue. So I mean, it's especially on the business side of things, you've got to be a lot more careful than on the consumer side, where I was demoing the first VoIP systems back in the 90s.
Wow.
You know, people were sending the ATAs to me to try these out, and I tried them out live, and I had calls that were terrible, and I just hang up and retry. Literally since we started Internet Telephony Magazine in 1997, so I've been demoing this stuff. Some of the stuff was really bad back in the old days. Part of it was a bandwidth issue, and part of it was just the equipment didn't have the ability to respond to latency and jitter and all the other packet loss and challenges like that.
Right.
But in my home, I would just hang up and call back. But when you're a business and it's not a
critical.
cell phone, they start to wonder what's wrong with your phone service.
Yeah, well, it's critical, and that's one of the reasons that we've delivered the managed broadband component. And over time, you see the capacity built into the networks, and you have to be very strategic with your partners upstream, whether who your tier ones are, where you're co-locating. I mean, there's just infinite number of elements that go into the end-to-end aspect of it. But if you think about it, it's really the only way to enter if you're going to do this long term. Because if you just enter thinking you're going to throw up an IP phone over someone's DSL connection, and you're not going to tell them how to, you're not going to have responsive support. You're not going to, tell them about the features, how to use it. You're not going to groom the network in any way. You're not going to have a very tight relationship with whoever the VoIP or ITSP is. It's a small miracle to get that to work at a business critical way, to your point. So that's why we entered the market, managed broadband, managed router. We're going to provide you the phones. Part of it is to manage the costs and the inventory for the customer. But the reality is, it's really to make sure it works. It's to make sure it all works. We can decouple that and debundle it. It's funny that we've been doing this for long enough now. We can start to debundle these elements because we understand them much better.
Right.
But at the beginning, it was not even up for discussion.
Sure.
It was like, you're getting all of this end to end. And if that sounds like maybe a little bit too much of a aggressive or powerful move, maybe we're not the service provider for you.
Right.
And the reality is it worked more times than not because it's too fragmented. That's changing though, and again, the customer experience is the driver on that.
Okay, and so what's the growth been like?
New customer growth has been very, very good. We have struggled over the last probably 15, 18 months, and I say struggle, it's more of a project management standpoint, because we had to work with a lot of our customers in their time of need to make sure that we got them caught up paying their bills. Mm-hmm. We did not see as much churn at the end of last year as I thought we would see at the beginning, but it's because we worked with them, and then we put in payment programs for customers. But new sales have been good. They've been very good.
Good.
But there's the other side of that is, though, that we had to hang in there with our customers and see them through the end. And we're glad we did, and they're glad, but that's tough, on the overall resources of the company to do that. But new sales have been very good. This year starting off very, very solid.
Now, do you see the popularity of cloud and the word cloud helping you?
Rich, true story. Yesterday, guy came in, called me as a customer. His guy named Wayne. He's in Houston, and this true. He asked me, and he was all hot to get a hold of me, and went through a couple people to get a hold of me. And I've been traveling for a couple days, and he said, "Can you offer me cloud services?" And truly, and I have to admit to you, I was a little like, "Oh my, what do I say?" I can either say yes, and we have a huge miscommunication, or I can ask him further what he means by cloud. And he might say, "Well, shouldn't you know?" So I asked so I took the second approach. I said, "Well, tell me exactly what you mean, Wayne." They're a multi-site organization, pretty high, about 80 employees. He's opening 4 or 5 other offices, so very high growth atmosphere. And he named off all the things that we've been doing for 3 years with him. He's been a customer of ours 3 years. We've been doing this for 6.5. And that is, well, can I turn up an instance of my PBX when I want to? Can I provision a phone remotely? Can I redirect my calls? Can I get to my storage? I said, "Wayne, you haven't had a piece of equipment except the Polycom phone on your site with us, for the last 3 years. Everything you do is spread across 6 different data facilities, driven by IP addresses, domains. You can get to it 24/7, and it's got disaster recovery and built-in continuity in it." And he goes, "Okay, well, so you are delivering me cloud services." and my point to him, and my point to myself, I guess, during that question you just asked is, I think that you got to separate the cloud from if you've been doing this, it's not that different.
That's right.
It's not that different. And then if you speak to people that really are into the cloud, like at the highest level of like concept. It's about a virtual IP address,
Right.
you know, and to go off on a customer like that, they're just now getting their head around the hosted phone system.
Right.
So I don't know if you should really drive home what a ambiguous IP address is in the
Right.
peering cloud. Wayne, my customer, would have said, no, I just data backup, hosted.
Right.
But we've been given that to him. So we try to simplify it.
Sure.
You know, it's kind of funny, the business card that I handed out earlier has clouds on it. About 3 years ago we did that. And I have to admit, we're in it, we're behind it. But the reality is that hosted voice over IP, of distributed networks, that stuff, if you execute on it properly, you've been doing it.
That's great.
You've been doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and I was just stumped when a customer asked me that.
Yeah.
And I had to say, what do you mean? And everything you rattled off is what we've been invoicing him for the last 3 years.
That's great. Well, it shows you sometimes that the hype of technology becomes so big that you don't even realize that you're already doing it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to peel back what's the software as a service,
Sure.
what's hosted and all of that. So
Exactly.
without getting it too complicated, if you make it very accessible for the customers and you get into their business process, and then how do you enable them through applications, content management, those type of things that we found to be very successful. Get to know their company. Don't just sell them fax to email. Understand how they use fax before you send them fax to email. You know, and
Right.
those type of things, getting their workflow. You're going to have customers for a very long time.
Right.
With the cloud, without the cloud, with the buzz, without the buzz. Because at the end of the day, they'd have to have 5 other service providers to do all that.
Makes sense.
So if you got one that answers the phone, whether it's in the cloud or the rainbow, you don't care, you know? So that's it.
Well, thanks for your time today. It's great
Likewise,
to see you.
appreciate it, Rich. Thank you.